Over the past few seasons, NASCAR has been getting more innovative with their schedule, adding new venues like Gateway in Iowa, or changing track layouts like the Roval, or going street racing, and heck, even building a track inside of a stadium. All of these things have contributed to NASCAR having the most diverse schedule in all of motorsports. But today, I'm going to try my best in making an ideal yet realistic 25-25 schedule for the NASCAR Cup, Xfinity, and Truck Series. But first, I need to lay out one ground rule. One single race per venue, so fan favorites like the Summer Daytona race, the Fall Talladega race, the Roval, and Spring Bristol, all gone. And now, with that laid out, let's build our own schedule. To start the 2025 NASCAR season, we will begin in January. From January 17th to 19th, we will be bringing back preseason thunder at Daytona, and we'll have free admission to any and all people. This will be where all three series have unlimited testing at Daytona. And on Sunday, January 26th, Fox will air a NASCAR season preview on Main Fox at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, showing what the season has in store. Now for the actual racing. With the LA Coliseum contract expiring at the end of 2024, many are asking the question, where is it going? Well, don't worry, I've got you guys covered. Stadium racing is here to stay, but we aren't going back to the Coliseum. We are heading to MetLife Stadium, home of the New York Giants and New York Jets. In my opinion, this is perfect, and while not technically being in New York City, it is still a big part of the New York market. And as a bonus, we will be F1 and IndyCar to the New York area. Also, if someone can make some awesome Busch Light Clash at MetLife Stadium fan art, just send it to me on Instagram and I'll put it in a post or video sometime. Now for the format. We will have one practice session early in the afternoon on Saturday and qualifying Saturday night. Now the top two qualifiers will automatically advance to the Clash, but the rest will have to make their way in through the heat races, which will start at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time on February 2nd, and all four heat races will be 50 laps, where only green flag laps count. The top 5 from each heat will advance to the Clash. There will also be a 30-lap last chance qualifier race in which only the top 2 drivers will advance, and that will bring the field size to 24 drivers. The Clash will start at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time under the lights at MetLife. The race will be 200 laps with a halfway break in between, and only green flag laps will count. Now for the start of the regular season. The Cup Series will qualify for the Daytona 500 on Wednesday, February 14th. On Thursday night, the duels will start at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and also, the duels will not have points. That's just a whole stupid idea. I don't know why NASCAR thought of it in the first place. Stupid idea. The Truck Series will have their season opener with a 100-lap, 250-mile race on Friday, February 14th at 6:30. The Xfinity Series will have their 120-lap, 300-mile race on Saturday, February 17th at 6 p.m. And then on Sunday, February 16th, the Great American Race. The Daytona 500 will take place 200 laps, 500 miles at 1:30 p.m. The next weekend, we will begin the West Coast Swing at Las Vegas for all three series. Trucks on Friday at 6:30 for a 134-lap, 200-mile affair. The Xfinity Series will race on Saturday, February 22nd at 3:30 for a 166-lap, 400-kilometer race. Yes, you heard that right, kilometer. I will explain in a second. The Cup Series will race Sunday at 2:30 for a 207-lap, 500-kilometer race. Now the reason that I am using kilometers is to shorten the races. I feel like shortening the races will help NASCAR and will also make the crown jewels and races with significance all that more prestigious. The next weekend will be at Sonoma and will only feature the Truck Series and Cup Series, giving the Xfinity Series a week off. On Saturday, March 1st at 3:30, the Trucks will have a 75-lap, 200-kilometer race, and on Sunday, the Cup Series will race at 2 for a 94-lap, 300-kilometer race. The following weekend, all three series will be headed to Phoenix to complete the West Coast Swing. The Truck Series will start on Friday, March 7th at 6:30 for a 150-lap race. On Saturday, the Xfinity Series will race at 6 for a 200-lap race, and the Cup Series will race on Sunday at 2 for a 250-lap, 400-kilometer race. The next weekend will take place at Circuit of the Americas. The Truck Series will start on Friday at 3:30 for a 37-lap, 200-kilometer race. On Saturday, the Xfinity Series will start at 3:30 for a 48-lap race. And on Sunday, the Cup Series will run at 1:30 for a 58-lap affair. The next week will kick off at Richmond Raceway with the Truck Series on Friday, March 21st at 7 p.m. for a 200-lap race. The Xfinity Series will start Saturday afternoon at 2:30 for a 250-lap race, and the Cup Series will start Saturday night at 6:30 for a 300-lap race. Next weekend, we head down to Atlanta. The Truck Series will start on Friday at 3:30 for a 134-lap 200-mile race. The Xfinity race will be on Saturday at 6 for a 166-lap 400-kilometer race, and the Cup Series will cap off the weekend with a 207-lap 500-kilometer race starting at 5. The next weekend will start on Saturday with the Truck Series returning to Canadian Tire at 12:30 for a 64-lap 250-kilometer race on April 5th. The Xfinity Series will start later that day at 3:30 for a 76-lap 150-mile race, and on Sunday the Cup Series will have a standalone race at Gateway starting at 2 for a 200-lap 400-kilometer race. Next weekend will kick off on Friday, April 11th at 6:30 at the Kansas Speedway for a 134-lap 200-mile race for the Truck Series. The Xfinity Series will race on Saturday at 3 for a 166-lap 400-kilometer race, and finally, on Sunday, the Cup Series will start at 2 for a 207-lap 500-kilometer race. The next weekend will have another major shakeup, with a standalone Cup Series race at Eldora on Saturday night, April 19th, for a 200-lap dirt derby, and making this the only dirt race on the Cup, Xfinity, and Truck schedule. Now for the 11th weekend on the schedule, we have another major schedule shakeup. The Cup and Xfinity Series will be heading to the Long Beach Street Race for NASCAR's one and only street circuit of the season. The Xfinity Series will kick things off on Saturday, April 26 at 3:30 for a 55-lap 175-kilometer race, and the Cup Series will race Sunday at 2:30 for a 63-lap 200-kilometer race. Next week, all three series head to North Wilkesboro. The Truck Series will start Saturday, May 3rd at 2:30 for a 200-lap race. The Xfinity Series will race later the same day at 6:30 for a 250-lap race, and the Cup Series will race Sunday at 5:30 for a 300-lap race. Next weekend, we head to Dover. The Truck Series starts the weekend on Friday, May 9th at 4 for a 200-lap 200-mile race. On Saturday, the Xfinity Series will race at 3:30 for a 250-lap 400-kilometer race, and the Cup Series will run at 1:30 for a 312-lap 500-kilometer race. Next week, we will have the All-Star Race, and I will run the All-Star Race at Bowman Gray Stadium, otherwise known as Winston-Salem, a neutral track that is nowhere else in the season and within the Charlotte area. The automatic qualifications will be any former champion and winners in 2025, and any All-Star winners from the last 10 seasons. And with all these qualifications, the field size would already be between 14 to 18 cars. The Open will start at 1:30 on Sunday, May 18th. Format will include 3 segments. The first 2 segments will be 50 laps each, with the winners advancing to the main race, and the final segment will be a 30-lap shootout with the top 2 drivers advancing. And then, of course, the fan vote, which will put the field size between 19 to 23 cars. The main race will be a 200-lap race with a midway break. The next weekend will be at Charlotte on Memorial Day weekend. Friday, May 23rd, will host the Truck Series for a 147-lap 250-mile race at 6:30. Saturday, the Xfinity Series will run a 200-lap 300-mile race at 3. And on Sunday, the Cup Series will run the Coca-Cola 600 at 5:30. Next weekend, NASCAR heads to the Tricky Triangle at Pocono, starting with the Truck Series on Saturday, May 31st at 1 for a 60-lap 150-mile race. The Xfinity Series will run later that day at 4 for a 100-lap 250-mile race, and the Cup Series will run at 2 for a 125-lap 500-kilometer race. Next weekend, we head to Texas. The Truck Series will run on Friday, June 6th at 6:30 for a 147-lap 250-mile race. On Saturday at 3 for a 166-lap 400-kilometer race for the Xfinity Series, and on Sunday, the Cup Series will race at 2 for a 207-lap 500-kilometer race. Next week, only the Cup and Xfinity Series head to Watkins Glen, with the Xfinity Series starting on Saturday, June 14th for a 72-lap 175-mile race at 3:30, On Sunday, the Cup Series will run at 2 for an 82-lap, 200-mile race. Next weekend, we go to Iowa. The Truck Series kick it off on Friday, June 20th at 6:30 for a 200-lap race. On Saturday, the Xfinity Series runs at 6 p.m. for a 250-lap race, and on Sunday, the Cup race starts at 5 p.m. for a 300-lap affair. Next week, the Truck and Xfinity Series will go to Nashville Fairgrounds, which I believe will be on the schedule and approved in 2025. The Truck Series will run on Friday, June 27th at 6 for a 200-lap race. The Xfinity Series will also run at the Fairgrounds on Saturday at 6:30 for a 250-lap race. The Cup Series will have a standalone race at the Nashville Superspeedway at 6 for a 233-lap, 500-kilometer race. The next weekend will be July 4th weekend, and I hope we start a new tradition. I hope that we celebrate the birth of America with a racetrack that has America in the name. I am of course talking about Road America. On Saturday, July 5th at 2:30, the Xfinity Series will run a 44-lap, 175-mile race. And on Sunday at 2, the Cup Series will run a 56-lap, 225-mile race. Next weekend, all three series head to Michigan. On Friday, July 11th at 2:30, the Truck Series will run a 100-lap, 200-mile race. On Saturday, the Xfinity Series will run at 3 for a 125-lap, 250-mile race. And on Sunday, the Cup Series will race at 2 for a 155-lap to 500-kilometer race. The next weekend would feature Loudon for the Xfinity and Cup Series. The Xfinity Series starts on Saturday, July 19th at 3 for a 200-lap race. On Sunday, the Cup Series runs at 2 for a 250-lap, 400-kilometer race. Next week, all three series head to Indianapolis, but all three series will run different configurations. The Truck Series runs on Friday, July 25th at 6:30 at IRP for a 200-lap race. The Xfinity Series will run at the Indy Road Course on Saturday at 2:30 for a 62-lap, 150-mile race. And on Sunday, the Cup Series will run the Brickyard 400 at 2 o'clock. Now for the sake of the teams, NASCAR will have a 2-week summer break just to give the teams some much-needed rest. For the next race day, the tour moves to Thunder Valley at Bristol. The Truck Series runs on Friday, August 15th at 2:30 for a 200-lap race. The Xfinity Series runs later that night at 6:30 for a 300-lap race. And the Cup Series runs the Bristol night race on Saturday at 6 for a 400-lap race. For the next weekend, we head to Talladega. On Friday, August 22nd at 3, the Truck Series will run a 94-lap, 250-mile race. On Saturday, the Xfinity Series will run at 3 for a 113-lap, 300-mile race. And the Cup Series races on Sunday at 2 for a 151-lap, 400-mile race. Next weekend, we will be continuing the Labor Day tradition at Darlington, which will also be the throwback weekend. On Friday, August 29th at 6:30, the Truck Series runs a 147-lap, 200-mile race. On Saturday, the Xfinity Series will race at 3:30 for a 183-lap, 250-mile race. On Sunday, the Cup Series will run the Southern 500 at 5:30. But for the next weekend, NASCAR is going international. The Cup and Xfinity Series will be going to Montreal to Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. The Xfinity Series runs on Saturday, September 6th at 2:30 for a 57-lap, 250-kilometer race. The Cup Series runs on Sunday at 2 for a 68-lap, 300-kilometer race. For the next weekend, NASCAR returns to Chicagoland, and it kicks off with the Truck Series on Friday, September 12th at 7 for a 150-lap, 225-mile race. On Saturday, the Xfinity Series runs at 2 for a 166-lap, 400-kilometer race. On Sunday, the Cup Series runs at 2 for a 207-lap, 500-kilometer race. For the penultimate race of the season, we go to Martinsville. The Truck Series runs on Friday, September 19th at 6:30 for a 200-lap race. On Saturday, the Xfinity Series runs at 2:30 for a 300-lap race, and the Cup Series runs later that day at 6 for a 400-lap affair. And for the finale, we are giving the date back to Homestead, Miami. On Friday, September 26th at 6:30, the Truck Series will run a 147-lap, 250-mile race. On Saturday, the Xfinity Series will run at 6:30 for a 200-lap, 300-mile race. and the Cup Series will finish the season at 6 for a 267 lap, 400 mile race to end the season. So now to address some things. Number 1, the shorter season. The Cup Series now only has 30 races, the Xfinity Series now has 28 races, and the Truck Series oddly gained a race and now has 24 races. But the reason why the season is shorter is because honestly the season is too damn long. I gotta be honest, it felt like just yesterday I saw Ryan Blaney take the championship, and now the 500 is already passed. Also, I feel like this move is good, and it also gives the teams a longer rest break, and it makes us not interfere with the NFL as much. Number 2, shorter races. The shorter races help with the attention span of some people from this current generation, and honestly the only races that are longer than 400 miles are the 4 Crown Jewels, Talladega, and the season finale, and I feel like this will make those races all that more prestigious, and will also just help with overall attention. Number 3, 1 race per venue. In my opinion, this makes the schedule even more diverse and makes it a lot more interesting, and will also help the tracks with the at-track attendance. Now for some of the tracks. I would run the Clash at MetLife Stadium, and honestly I wouldn't make it permanent for anywhere we go. I would sign every stadium we race at to a 2-year deal with a 1-year option, kind of how it is now. So this way we can travel to a new market every 2 to 3 years. And the reason I chose MetLife is because the NYC market is basically untouched by motorsports, and we can beat every other racing series there. We're also going to Eldora. NASCAR needs a dirt race on the schedule, and I don't think we should use a pre-existing short track. Bristol Dirt in my opinion was good, but I wasn't a fan of using a pre-existing track. I really wish that we would have just gone to Eldora in the first place and kissed Tony Stewart's ass and paid him the money. But well, now we can get it now with my schedule. The Long Beach Street Circuit. NASCAR needs to have an annual street race. I don't think the Chicago deal will be extended after the 2024 season, so NASCAR can run the street race on a doubleheader weekend with IndyCar, and will have a 2-year deal with a 1-year option, much like the Clash. The All-Star race will also be moved to Bowman Gray Stadium. Bowman Gray is actually not that far from the Charlotte Motor Speedway, so running this race won't be too much of a hassle and will give the teams a little bit of rest time. Especially because we're running it the week before the Coke 600. And this will also make North Wilkesboro a points-paying race, which I think NASCAR is going to end up doing this anyway, but you know, whatever. Now for the return of the Nashville Fairgrounds. The Xfinity and Truck Series will run at the Nashville Fairgrounds, just as a test run, while the Cup Series will continue to run at the Nashville Superspeedway, kind of how NASCAR did with the Indy Road Course and the Brickyard. Road America will return to the schedule, and this will restart the 4th of July tradition at Road America. I was honestly a big fan of this tradition as an idea, and I think that NASCAR should stick with it moving forward. Indianapolis will only have the Cup Series run at the Oval for the Brickyard 400. The Xfinity Series will run the road course, and the Truck Series will continue at IRP, because in my opinion, the only series that should be on the oval, the big oval I should say, is the Cup Series. The Xfinity Series needs to run the road course, and the Truck Series needs to continue at the short track, because in my opinion, the road course and the short track are just nowhere near as prestigious as the Brickyard. One of the bigger races this season will be at Montreal to help NASCAR go international, and maybe in the future we can move down to Mexico. Chicagoland will return to the schedule to the pleasure of many and will fill in the void that the Chicago Street Course left in the Chicago market. And finally, Homestead will return as a season finale for all 3 series. Homestead should always be the finale. I know some people don't like this track, but this track is fun as hell to watch, and I love seeing races here, and I think this should have been the finale for every single season. But I get that Phoenix Raceway is a little more up to date, so I understand why it's at Phoenix, but me personally, I would prefer it be run at Homestead. Well, that's my ideal and realistic schedule for the Cup Series in 2025. Also, just to remind someone, if anyone can make some awesome Busch Light Clash at MetLife Stadium fan art, just send it to me on Instagram, and I will feature it in a video or a post at some point. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time for another video.